Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed SNAC online yesterday for church. Don't forget, this week we have the newbies for our very last deputation session, the scheduled in one for all of SNAC. Please join in if you haven't been to one. It's really worth your time. So Tuesday evening from 7:30 to join in for that. Keep an eye on your emails. Well, we come today to the final psalm in Book 3 of the Psalms, Psalm 89. And if you've been following along, we're on a cliffhanger because at the end of Psalm 88, you have distanced loved one and neighbour from me. Darkness is my only friend, said the Ezrahite in the psalm. And it was a really sad ending, but a psalm that allowed you to cry out when things weren't right. And that really fitted one of the major themes of Book 3 of the Psalms, which is this tension that things aren't good for God's people. It's a miserable time after judgment, after being sent out into the land of the Babylonians. Things aren't good. They've lost their promised land, and yet in the background are all these promises of God. And so some behave not trusting God. Some behave by crying out, when are you going to do something, God? Some are just depressed, like the psalmist of Psalm 88. But Psalm 89, it really brings together the kind of Davidic or messianic promises that the Israelites can hold on to, and that is what sustains them, their hope. They have a hope. And so if you've read it, you'll know. If you haven't, please go and read it and then come back. It'll be more helpful because it's a long psalm, and I'm just going to pick out a few things again. Once again, there is this reminder of who God is in verse 2, for example. For I will declare faithful love is built up forever. You established your faithfulness in the heavens. This is who you are, God. And then verse 3 is a reminder of the promises God has made to the Israelites. The Lord said, I have made a covenant with my chosen one. I have sworn an oath to David, my servant. I will establish your offspring forever and build up your throne for all generations. There is 2 Samuel 7. There is the great hope for the Israelite nation, the Jewish nation. It comes up again down in verses 27, 28, 29, a reminder of those similar promises in 2 Samuel. God has a forever kingdom on his mind, and yet his people are in misery and doesn't look like God will fulfill his promises. God also has promised them in Ezekiel that he will lift up a horn of salvation. And so we have verses 17 and 18. For you are their magnificent strength. By your favour our horn is exalted. Surely our shield belongs to the Lord, our King, to the Holy One of Israel. Again, a picture of salvation that comes from God. He's promised it, but where is it? And so the great hope for the Jewish people, for the remnant of the Israelites, is the promises of God. That's what pushes them forward even in their despair. And though it's sad, as we saw in Psalm 88, it's real. They do have a real hope. And so we find at the end of this Book 3 of the psalmist crying out, how long, Lord? How long? We're waiting, we've heard your promises, now how long do we need to wait? Will you hide yourself forever? Will your anger keep burning like fire? Remember how short my life is. Have you created everyone for nothing? See, the psalmist wants to see in his days the promises of God fulfilled. We don't know if he did end up getting to see them. The psalmist also tries to bargain a little, like we've seen before with God. Verse 50, remember, Lord, the ridicule against your servants. In my heart I carry abuse from all the peoples. How your enemies have ridiculed, Lord. The psalmist tries to bargain in a sense to say, look, everybody is seeing that you are not a good God, but we know you are. Show it, and show it in my day. And then he finishes with, I think, a good response for somebody who is waiting for God on God's timing to fulfill his promises, who is sure that he will, but just doesn't know when. May the Lord be praised forever. Amen and amen. So we live in a different time this side of the cross, don't we? And so we've seen the horn of salvation come. We've seen salvation being brought to all peoples in the world. We've seen the day of the Lord begin. And yet we wait for the promises of God to be fulfilled. It's not perfect. The world is not great. Things are hard. And we cry out just like the psalmist, Lord, when are you going to come? How long, Lord? Some people, some Christians cry out and say, how long, Lord? And then start trying to say, well, no, the solution must be here. Maybe it's in this age. Maybe we can hope to make heaven on earth. Maybe it's up to us to bring it in with what we've got and the message and the echoes of Jesus' life. But that's not the answer. The answer is already told to us. The promise is already told to us that Jesus will come back. And when he does, his kingdom will begin after the judgment that must come. This is the age of proclamation. This is the age where we wait for Jesus to return. This is the age of holding on to the promises of God. It's like Psalm 89. We don't know when it will be. We can cry out. We should cry out. Indeed, our Lord's Prayer tells us to pray that Jesus would come back, that his kingdom would come in on earth as in heaven. But that day is not yet here. It could come like a thief in the night, and we pray it'll come tonight. But there's a great tension here, as there've been in the whole of Book 3 of the Psalms, between the reality of the toughness of life in this world and the promises of God are sure and will be fulfilled, but when? I think I'd rather be a New Testament Christian, because many blessings come with knowing God already and having his Spirit in us and having his word in our hands and having the joy of seeing people find life. It's a great day we live in. May we hold on to the tension of wanting Jesus to come back as well. Amen.